Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Daniel and this video is gonna be about best commanders to pair for Area of Effect skill damage. Before I jump into the topic, I would like to explain why I choose to make this video. It's because I believe that in the future Arc of Osiris will be dominated by field fights. And not just any type of field fights, but mostly middle team fights or fights around spots on the map, certain objectives. So that will mean that many people, many troops will be congregated in one area. Another reason why I chose to make it is because I've seen that Lilith started to introduce more area of effect commanders. So even if there are, like Theodora, even if there are for garrison, they still have a circular area of effect damage, and it's definitely something that we need to look at. Also, something that struck me as interesting was that Yisun Sin, for example, does single target damage when on field battles and area of effect damage on garrison. Of course, this doesn't tell us anything right away, but it does make me wonder that maybe Lilith is being careful with the number and the strength of the area of effect commanders that they are bringing into the game. Another topic I wanted to touch on is the evolving strategies in the Arc of Osiris that you are seeing from the bigger alliances, so to say. More and more field fights are being the ones that actually decide the winners. And there are two factors that play an important role in the winning of such battles. Firstly, it's the timing. So basically to have your troops, the number of troops, the people you want in the same spot, and the place that you want them to be. That is gonna be another video that I'm gonna make about the Arc of Osiris preparations. But the second one, I think, so even if you have your people right there, the place you want, you still need to actually kill your opponent. And this is why I wanted to make this video, because I am starting to believe that even if quite right now there is not, I will say, a 100% meta shift to the area of effect damage. I'm not quite seeing it yet, and maybe because it's not yet supported by the number of commanders in the roster, but it will start to go there. Like definitely people with Isongi, Guan, and the others that I'm gonna mention, you're definitely gonna see them more and more. Also, Artemisia will be seen more and more, and when people will be able to have Theodora, we will probably see her too, but it's not quite a meta shift to that region. But I think it will happen in the future. And there are a couple of things that make me believe it will happen. Firstly, if you looked at my previous videos about skill damage, you will notice the fact that commanders with very high area of effect damage capabilities have their power level increased somewhere around twofold, meaning they definitely have the potential to outshine most of the single target commanders out here. I would dare say all for now. Another thing that's important to see is that when, for example, going at the Arc of Osiris and in the practice for the skills that we can do, you will see that the skills are in favor of the attacking side. So, for example, you can see that the troops get an area, increase their attack of up to by 80%. For example, this is 80%, and another skill that gives defensive is the heavenly mystical formation. Yeah, it only increases the defense of troops by 50%, meaning that skill damage it's actually favorable in this kind of situations, because you don't want to tank. Actually, you want to clear the field as fast as possible, and the bonuses are here on the attacker side. The second reason I believe that area of effect damage will become very relevant in the future, it's that the skills right now in Osiris are heavily favored for the attacking side, in my opinion. The attack of the troops can, like you see here, is 80% for 180 seconds, while the defense is just 50%. It's a 30% difference. There are some skills here that I'm not sure exactly, like I don't think they're very good. For defense, unwavering resolve, just for 20 seconds, all damage taken. This is very good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's even on the AoE. Never used. And to the death, that is also probably favored the attacker with 100% in damage increase. And there are probably some other factors that will eventually sway the balance to more area of effect prone commanders, but I'm not gonna get into them. They are quite small, but eventually they will stack up and matter. What I do want to go to do is explain the pairings that I've chosen in the picture that you see, and that is I will go through their skills a little bit, explain why I believe they should be paired together. Firstly is Ethelflaed with YSG. In my opinion, a very strong combination, very squishy indeed, not very tanky, but can do lots of damage. Ethelflaed, he has a very big area of effect. If you have it maxed, you know what I'm talking about if you use it. I didn't even touch my calculation on the defense and health reduction. That is extremely powerful. That's basically debuffing a whole march, or the whole 5 enemy marches from an enemy. Bringing 10 Ethelflaeds to the middle will probably be required, because the enemy will bring 50 marches, meaning that you need a big amount of a big number of Ethelflaeds to be able to debuff so many people. The second skill is not that amazing. It counter-attack damage reduction. I used her before to attack garnisons with pretty good success because of this skill. The third one is just bonus to barbarians, meaning nothing. The fourth one, it's pretty alright when you're commanding 3 different troops of type. Their damage is increased by 20%. You can use this or not. Basically the equipment will help you mitigate this. It will be almost the same. If you have full cavalry, for example, it's almost the same. Probably better still to bring 3 type of units, because you want increased damage. Basically that's all what this Ethelflaed and YSG will do. For expertise, it's extremely good. 20% extra damage, it's actually 20%. It's badly worded, but it's 20% all damage dealt, so it's definitely very powerful. To activate this skill, I usually go into talents and research until here, Cage of Thorns, and I put just 1 point in it because this will debuff the troops nearby 5 targets and reduce their march speed, meaning that 5 troops will get the slow. Also, the second skill has a bit of slow in it, but it's not really that useful because you want to slow 5 targets at least. The reason I chose to pair her up with YSG is that she does hit a usually large number of targets and she has no drawback, so each target hit gets a 800 direct damage factor, meaning she can do upwards of 4000 skill damage. With a 20% from her expertise and the 50% from OSG, she can do a very high number of direct damage to the targets hit by the primary skill. Then in my calculation I shown that YSG has the best average, almost the best average damage from his primary skill. He almost always hits all 5 targets, and that is why it is very good to be paired with Ethelflaed, because after her defense and health reduction debuff, YSG will be able to do more damage than usual. Also paired with the first skill, it's basically the highest damage dealing combo I could find. Moving on, we're gonna look at the second combination that I proposed, that is by Barris and Makmud. Barris is a really interesting commander, probably underused in the middle. I personally discovered it just recently. It has a 1000 damage factor in a fan facing forward area that can hit upwards to 5 targets. And as bonus, it also reduces the target's march speed, meaning targets will take more damage from Ethelflaed. So it's definitely a good synergy. Very interesting that he does not have any damage reduction. So he can basically hit 5 targets and do a damage factor 5000 here, for example, to when he hits 5 enemies. Moving to his second skill, I think it's alright, having 20% flat cavalry attack, meaning around 13-14% skill damage increase. That's very good. Not amazing, but decent. The third and fourth skill I don't think have any real meaning. Of course, you have to expertise him to be able to hit 5 targets, because otherwise he just hits 3 with 750. So easy to do commander. What I like about cavalry these days is that if you go on the talent tree, you can obtain, now I don't have it right now, I will change it definitely, but yeah, cavalry has a very nice, I think, let's just look at the other one that this one, I wanted to switch to this one, yeah, because I made it this morning. It's got a nice 12% damage reduction taken, and I'll actually just switch it, because why not, let's do it live. Okay, so that's 12, and the skill damage you get another 6, meaning it's almost 18% damage skill damage reduction. Very nice in these middle area of effect team fights that we are gonna have in the middle lane. Now for Barris, I chose to pair him with Makmud. Makmud first skill has area of effect damage. That scale is pretty good, not amazingly. It's one of the worst from the area of effect commanders, but does decent damage. He usually hits just 3, so around 2000 average damage factor, like this, 2400 or something. I calculated it. Doesn't matter that much. His second skill, though, I think is very nice, especially for Barris, because it increases the troop attack and all skill damage dealt. And that's basically this very synergistic with Barris. He also have 20% cavalry attack. Makmud has 20% troop attack with skill damage, and a little bit of troop capacity, meaning it's extremely it's very nice to have your march do one thing and do it very good. Now that being said, in this case it's damage, but that being said, I will not hate you if you would pair Barris with Saladin in middle lane, where he can take advantage of his skill damage reduction. But this is, I think it's a very heavy investment. Not everybody has him. I think Makmud is very cheap to have at 5/5, especially that he is from gold chest. Moving on, the next commanders I have listed is Kuan Yew. This is a commander I just recently started to work on. I've thought a lot about him. It's very strong commander in certain ways and weak in so many others. My opinion is that if we bring 2 extremely high damage dealing marches like Ethelflaed and YSG, when you bring Barris, that is very squishy with Makmud, also very squishy, doesn't have 0 defensive. Why wouldn't we bring a third, very squishy, be there just to do damage composition march? Because in the end, what is the enemy going to focus? He's gonna try to go for the Guan, maybe, but he's gonna have to kill the Ethelflaeds also. But wait a minute, Barris is also doing tons of damage when hitting a lot of targets. So that is why I think that I prefer making the top 3 marches. So with the first 6 commanders, just basically pure damage, no mixing, nothing, just pure damage. All the enemy can do is either survive the damage that we put on them, or just if they survive it and they can kill us, alright, they win. But we have a plan, we have a strategy. If they cannot, they just fail. So basically that we're posting them to the test. Now let's go over the skills. It's 2000. Kuan Yew does a 2000 direct damage factor in a fan shape area. Also silences. It's one of the reasons I basically chose, because the silence is actually the death of area of effect damage. If got somebody who can stop you from casting the skills, that is gonna be a problem. So sometimes it will give us a little bit more time to do all the damage that we want. Sometimes it will serve as a distraction for the Ethelflaeds and YSG to do their damage. I think this one is one is very strong. He does quite a bit of damage, but because he doesn't have any implicit direct damage factor modifier, no skill damage modifiers, he's gonna hit strong, but not as strong as the first two. The second and the second skill is useless usually. The third one is alright, giving a 10% infantry. I mean, of course, if you can go 5-5-5, it's gonna be awesome, but I don't think it's worth it. Like I said, attack damage bonuses do not scale that amazing in skill damage. This last skill unfortunately applies just to the target that it hits, meaning it's mostly good for his rally. So when he is doing the rally, he is leading, he hits a garrison, hits other smaller troops. He's got this extra additional damage factor boost, but it's nothing for us in the middle lane. Now I chose to pair him with Sun Tzu because Sun Tzu has a very good out of effect damage. As you can see, he has always been highly regarded by everyone. He's got almost 1000 direct damage factor, and he gains an additional 50 rage for each target hit. Basically, this is around 150, maybe 100 rage. That is extremely good. He will always hit 2 or 3 targets. His second skill does absolutely nothing for us. His third skill is very good. The damage reduction is flat, you can see it everywhere. It stops attack, normal attack damage, it stops everything. Skill damage, health is also alright, but basically means nothing for our composition. But this is what it's actually his bread and butter. The fourth skill definitely adds a little bit of punch to this combination, giving the whole team 20% increased area of effect damage. And I think this is the best 3 pairings that I could find. Now I'm gonna go into the more expensive fourth that I found. The fourth pairing that it's extremely powerful, but right now I cannot afford it. It's Artemisia, especially in Arc of Osiris, where the damage factor applying to her own troops means absolutely nothing. The wounded costs nothing to heal, so she basically does 1800. It's extremely high. It's very high for skill damage in a fan facing forward shape area up to 3 enemies. That is usually going to hit. For some reason I always see it hit targets around her, like when she's in garrison, when she's on the field. I tested her several times in expedition. This skill like always hits. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's so wide, or maybe the coding is just done properly on her. So this is extremely strong skill, but not everybody has her. She's quite an exclusive commander from IT Governor, so yeah, definitely something that I'm gonna look into invest later on once we can solidify and maybe prove or something like that the theory that I'm having in this idea. The second skill is absolutely does nothing for her, neither the third nor the fourth is this is the thing that I'm usually concerned about. I've seen reports of her, and it's very strange sometimes, because I do not want to silence herself for that 3 seconds. In my opinion, she should just do the skill. It would be, I would just not have her, like just put 3 and just remove this one. Sometimes I've seen reports where she doesn't even get that damage dealt bonus, that 25% increase, yeah, to her 3 seconds. So it's very strange for me, that 4th skill. Maybe I will explore her one day, but she's so strong because of her 1st skill. That's the most important part. Now the other one, of course, it's gonna be Theodora. She is like a miniature YSG without the expertise. With the expertise, she becomes she doesn't become as strong as YSG, because her skills usually apply garnison. I will go through them, but the damage is there, so you could pair her up with YSG and let her loan all the damage, that all that skill damage bonus that YSG inherently has. Give it to her also, because commanders share the same talents. Okay, but I will go. I think just having her at 1400 gives her roughly 2 point, I don't know, I don't remember, around 3000 direct damage factor, because she's gonna hit everybody around her. I'm gonna go fast. She doesn't have almost zero skill, zero good statistics. Not even in garnison she's that amazing. It's okay, but not amazing. The 3rd skill gives a 2% attack, and I think that's it. Yeah, yeah. So she does 2% attack, and at 50% more strength, her troops did an extra 2% more damage. That's all damage. Like I said, extra damage is all damage. So it's good. It's definitely a good skill to have. Lower than the expertise from Ethelfred, for example. This one is like 15% all damage, the extra damage dealt. I'm not very impressed with that. And this one is also, yeah, nothing to put points in. To basically, her hour of effect is the most important skill, and maybe that is why all her other skills are so weak in comparison to what we've been used to see from the other commanders. And I'm gonna go down the list further and go to the Richard and Joan. Now, I personally did not use it. I had no need for Richard. I did use Joan a lot, so I know about her. Richard is a very strong commander in area of effect fights, because of his 1st skill. That's one of the most important parts. The debuff effect that you can see here, it actually reduces all damage dealt by 30%. So that is a very good debuff. It only lasts for 2 seconds, so it's not amazing. But with Joan of Arc, he can definitely be a debuffing machine. Another thing I like about Richard and his 1st skill is that he does stack with other attack damage reduction. So if you have, for example, Chow Chow, who reduces the target's attack by 40%, it does stack with Richard. And you can see it here in this report, for example. The all units attack decreased by 40% from Chow Chow. Does not overlap, does not negate the all damage decrease caused by Richard. It's very important that this kind of effects do not overlap, so is with Ethelflaed that reduces the attack factor, so meaning that Richard still does his debuff. Richard's pairing that I found the best is, for Richard's pair I found Joan of Arc to be the best, because she has a powerful buff that increases the unit's infantry, meaning Richard can heal more. Preferably Joan of Arc is the first, she would be the primary commander. Increase first the health and then Richard can heal for a lot more. But of course I think she will be primary if you can. I will use her as primary, definitely. The healing factor is negligent and the normal attack bonus is negligent. She is basically a buff machine that gives everybody around her 200 rage and all these good nice stats. Another honorable mention is Kusanagi. I liked him before I had my Edward Max. He is a very strong area of effect commander, but his damage is on the lower side. He didn't get an update recently. All he does is 800 damage to 3 targets. That's okay, but definitely on the lower side, didn't make it. The attack and defense of the archer, that's nice to have. The normal attacks dealing damage to target, that is pretty useless for us. The real reason he made it on the list is because he removes all negative effects and crowd control. So basically all the damage reduction or the silences get broken by Kusanagi, meaning in the end he can still be a viable choice. On the list I also have Charles Martel as a primary commander. Basically he can be used to hide the YSG or the Ethelflaed or the other good commanders that make damage. The reason that he works is because nobody likes to attack a Charles Martel, and the second part is that he does have a little bit of damage in form of the increased troop damage when the shield is active for about 4 seconds, meaning that he does help those damage dealers in the backline. Caesar pretty much almost the same. He probably suffers the most. He doesn't have any good mobility, no skill tree, so no talent tree, so maybe not the best one, but I can still put him in the list. As you can see, he has increased all damage by 30%, meaning a YSG or somebody who is in the backline can definitely benefit from the 30%. Those two are more deceitful commanders that you can put fool your opponent into not knowing who to target. More straightforward commander that is definitely useful in the middle is Alexander the Great. His shield has very good potential in helping others survive damage from area of effect. Most of his other skills help him as in damage, and also they are pretty good. Like for example, just the last skill gives him 20% increased in attack, and that is with 1 point, meaning he has extremely good value. Now if you were to expertise him, that would be awesome, great. I love him expertise. We had the reserves, the golden sculptures. Unfortunately I do not. I focus maybe on something else in the future, but he has this increased damage taken by nearby enemies, just 3 targets, but it's pretty nice. by 30% for 4 seconds. So this is extremely useful. He buffs, he debuffs, and he does his own troop damage increase. I find him an extremely well, very useful commander in the middle. Extremely useful. Definitely, you must have him if you want to be like a permanent, mm, a permanent member in any league team. Now I'm gonna go over the more tanky commanders. They are also used to hide different damage dealers, like maybe Saladin or to pair with by Barras. His skill damage is alright, it's on the lower side. The march speed and the healing reduction does nothing for you. His defense is good, the attack is alright, but not amazing. This skill damage taken reduction is definitely what brings him a place on the list of substitutes when you are in the middle of a fight and you get hit left and right by enemies. This will definitely increase the chances of survival and in the end your potential damage output, because if you survive longer you can do more damage. Now I must say cavalry is already my favorite with the skill damage reduction that you get from the talents, like I let you know earlier. This one just making me more tanky. Unfortunately the investment, I think it's kind of big for such a role, so only if you have him. Moving on, Ramses, I think he is almost in the same category. His first skill is definitely very strong, much like 10%, 400 skill damage factor compared to Saladin. He also has defense reduction to the target. Unfortunately, this does not stack with Ethelflaed's damage reduction, defense reduction, sorry. The second skill is very strong, 40%, so 20 up to 40%, very strong. His third skill is very strong. Ramses is a very strong all-around champion, like even without his expertise, all his skills work very good in doing damage. Unfortunately, his fourth one is not that amazing for doing damage, but will help him survive in a lot of situations, especially area of effect. Like I don't see a fully maxed Ramses being nuked down by anything other than a swarm. He will not get any damage from the the enemy's area of effect. Now somebody I didn't know I did include on the list, but of course this is very much pay to win. Hannibal Barca, if you have him maxed, he can be used very you can bring him, is definitely worthwhile. Just put him in with any commander and he will do his job. Leonidas also, if you have him, like I don't think it's that amazing. Use him with Guan, but yeah, I think it's much more of a niche. Few people have him. Now, before I end the video, I want to briefly touch upon the single target commanders like Khan, Edward, and or the others, El Cid. What are you gonna do with them if you don't want to bring them to middle lane? Because I just don't see them doing very well there. Well, Khan and Chow Chow are extremely strong at swarming targets. So basically what you want to do is actually have them reinforce the Attila rally or another Khan rally, or just swarm the objective that you want to have, like maybe swarm an outpost, maybe swarm altar or something like that. Of course, you can bring him to carry the ark, to catch somebody who tries to deliver the ark. Those are also very good options. But they will definitely be outclassed by the other area of effect commanders. Like one of the reasons I make this video right now is because with my experience in middle lane now, I can see the importance of having the right commanders, the right tools at your disposal to make the best out of your troops. Before I made this video, I definitely made the mistakes to join rallies, for example, with my YSG. Not very often, but I did. So he was doing absolutely nothing with his archers. He didn't do his primary skill, his job basically, and his job is to do as much damage as he can to more players. So if you have maxed YSG, maxed Ethelfred, always put them together if you can, fill them with archers. Yeah, if you have to, like, if you basically have absolutely nothing to do with winning, yeah, join a rally of course, but if you can, put them outside your city, keep them near the altar that is getting swarmed, keep them near the middle lane that is about to spawn the ark, and just send them there to do their damage. They don't even have to be protected. They go, they fight, they die. Basically, at some point, each of us can bring a number of troops at a certain point on the map. If we can bring the better commanders for the job, eventually that will lead to better outcomes. Please apologize if the video was too long. I hope you liked it. In the future I will try to make smaller videos with more exact topics. If you have any questions, please let me know. I am willing to answer them. And that's it for this video. Thank you everyone. Thanks for watching, and bye bye. Have a great day. Bye bye everyone.